In the suburbs of Atlanta, Jake Thompson returns home to find out about his wife Lauren's infidelity. She's packing for a date with someone else. She taunts him, but Jake doesn't break down. He was silent when he found out about her infidelity. But what he did next made her cry on her knees. If you're in favor of fair retribution, subscribe. Jake Thompson, 32, is the kind of man you'd want in a crisis. Cool-headed, resourceful, and fiercely loyal. As a logistics manager at a bustling Atlanta warehouse, he orchestrates the chaos of supply chains with precision, earning the respect of his team for his fairness and quick wit. His days are long but rewarding, filled with the hum of forklifts, the chatter of coworkers, and the satisfaction of solving problems on the fly. Jake's not one for the spotlight, but his steady presence makes him a cornerstone of the operation, the guy everyone turns to when things go sideways. He lives in a modest ranch-style home in Marietta, a gift from his late grandfather, a Vietnam veteran whose lessons of resilience shaped Jake's core. The house, with its creaky front porch, faded blue shutters, and a sprawling oak in the yard, is more than just a place to sleep. It's a sanctuary, a tangible link to his grandfather's legacy. Inside, the walls are lined with memories, a black-and-white photo of his grandfather in uniform, a shelf of dog-eared books, and a worn leather chair where Jake often sits to think. This house, debt-free and fiercely protected, is a symbol of everything Jake holds dear. Life for Jake is grounded in routine, a rhythm he's come to rely on. Weekends are for barbecues with his buddy Mike, a local fire captain with a knack for storytelling and a fridge always stocked with cold beer. They'll spend hours in Mike's backyard, flipping burgers, debating football, and laughing over old high school memories. Mike's the kind of friend who'd drop everything to help, and Jake values that loyalty more than he says out loud. Back home, evenings are quieter, spent with Lauren, his wife of 8 years. They met in high school, back when Jake was the lanky kid who could make her laugh even on her worst days. Their love was easy then, late-night drives, shared dreams, and promises of forever. Now, though, something shifted. Lauren's warmth has faded, replaced by a distant coolness that Jake can't quite pin down. She's still the same woman he fell for, sharp, ambitious, with a smile that used to light up a room. But lately, she's been pulling away. Movie nights, once a weekly ritual, have stopped. Her eyes are glued to her phone, her replies short and distracted. At her job with a downtown marketing firm, she's been working late, or so she says. Jake notices the change, but brushes it off, chalking it up to stress or a rough patch. He's not one to pry, trusting that if something's wrong, she'll come to him. Still, a nagging unease lingers, like a storm cloud on the horizon. The first clear sign comes on a chilly Tuesday night in November. Jake gets home late, the warehouse having kept him longer than usual with a shipment mix-up. The house is dark, no porch light on, no hum of the TV. He calls out for Lauren, but the silence answers back. In the kitchen, he finds a half-empty wine glass on the counter, a smudge of red lipstick on the rim. It's not like her to leave things messy. She's always been particular about tidiness. Upstairs, her closet door is ajar, a pair of her favorite heels missing from the rack. Jake's got twists, a quiet alarm sounding in his mind. She's probably out with friends, he tells himself, pushing the thought away. But the unease grows, settling like a weight in his chest. Later that night, unable to sleep, Jake pulls out his grandfather's old journal, a worn leather book he keeps on his nightstand. Its pages are filled with stories of grit and perseverance, lessons from a man who faced war and came out stronger. One entry catches his eye. Life tests you, son. It's not about how hard you hit back. It's about how you keep standing. Stay sharp, stay true. Jake traces the faded ink, the words sinking deep. He closes the book, resolve hardening in his chest. Whatever's coming, he'll face it the way his grandfather did, with a clear head and an unyielding spirit. For now, he'll watch and wait, but Jake Thompson is no stranger to a fight. And if trouble's brewing, he'll be ready. The air in Jake Thompson's Marietta home felt heavier as the days passed, the quiet tension between him and Lauren growing like a shadow. He tried to keep things normal, asking about her day, offering to cook dinner, but her responses were curt, her eyes avoiding his. Jake clung to routine, hoping the distance was temporary, but the signs were mounting. A late-night phone call she took in the other room, her purse stuffed with receipts for things he didn't recognize, the way she flinched when he reached for her hand. It all pointed to something he didn't want to name. One cold November evening, Jake's world tilted. He'd worked a grueling shift at the warehouse, untangling a delayed shipment that had tempers flaring. Exhausted, he pulled into the driveway well after dark, noticing Lauren's car wasn't there. The porch light, usually left on for him, was off, leaving the house swallowed by shadows. Inside, the silence was deafening. "Lauren?" he called, his voice echoing in the empty foyer. No answer. The kitchen was untouched, no dishes in the sink, no trace of her usual evening routine. A single wine glass sat on the counter, its lipstick-stained rim glinting under the light. Jake climbed the stairs, his boots heavy on the creaky steps. In their bedroom, he found her. Lauren sat at her vanity, her reflection sharp in the mirror as she applied a coat of red lipstick. She wore a sleek black dress, one he'd never seen, its hem sharp and purposeful. Her eyes flicked to him in the mirror, cold and unflinching. "I'm going out," she said, her voice flat, like she was stating the weather. Jake's stomach dropped. "Out where?" he asked, keeping his tone even despite the pulse hammering in his chest. "I have plans," she replied, capping the lipstick with a click. "With someone else." The words hit like a sucker punch, but it was her casual defiance that cut deeper. Jake stood frozen, his mind racing to process the betrayal. He'd suspected something was wrong, but this was a calculated move, a challenge thrown in his face. "You're telling me you're seeing another man?" he asked, his voice low, steady, though his hands clenched at his sides. Lauren turned, her gaze sharp. "Yes, Jake, and I'm not hiding it. This marriage isn't working, and I'm done pretending." She stood, smoothing her dress, and stepped past him toward the closet, pulling out a coat. "You can't just do this," Jake said, his calm fraying. "Not in our home. If you want out, we talk, we figure it out. But you don't get to parade this in front of me." Her laugh was sharp, almost a scoff. "This house will be mine, Jake. I've already talked to a lawyer. You should pack your things. It'll be easier that way. Or I can make it harder. I can call the police, say you're threatening me. They'll believe me over you." The threat hung in the air, cold and deliberate. Jake's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. He'd seen her ambition, her drive, but this ruthlessness was new, a side of her he hadn't known existed. "You'd lie to the cops?" he asked, his voice quiet but firm. "You'd ruin me to get what you want." Lauren shrugged, slipping on her coat. "I'm doing what I need to. This is my life now. Get on board or get out of my way." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Jake stood rooted, her words echoing in his mind. The woman he'd loved, the one he'd built a life with, was a stranger now, willing to burn everything down for her own gain. Alone in the bedroom, Jake sank onto the edge of the bed, the weight of her betrayal pressing against his chest. He thought of his grandfather's journal, the words about standing tall. This wasn't just about a broken marriage. It was about protecting what mattered, about refusing to let her greed win. Lauren thought she could outmaneuver him, but Jake wasn't the type to fold. He needed a plan, something smart, something airtight. As her car's engine faded into the night, Jake's resolve hardened. This was a fight, and he was just getting started. The sting of Lauren's betrayal lingered in Jake Thompson's Marietta home like a bitter chill, but her actions were only the beginning. The next morning, Jake woke to a text from his bank, their joint savings account, holding $25,000 from an insurance payout after a fire in their old apartment, had been drained to zero. His heart sank as he stared at the screen, the reality sinking in. Lauren hadn't just walked out. She'd taken everything she could, leaving him with nothing but the roof over his head. The account was meant for emergencies, a safety net they'd built together. Now, it was gone, and so was any doubt about her intentions. At work, Jake moved through his shift on autopilot, the warehouse's clamor barely registering. His mind churned, piecing together Lauren's plan. She'd threatened to claim the house, mentioned a lawyer, and now she'd gutted their savings. It wasn't just about leaving him. It was about control, about taking what she thought she deserved. During a break, he called his parents, who'd always been his rock. His mom, Ellen, listened quietly as he explained, her voice steady when she spoke. "That house is in our name, Jake. Your grandfather made sure of it. She can't touch it. But you need to protect yourself now." His dad, Tom, chimed in gruff but firm. "Get a lawyer, son. She's playing dirty." By evening, Jake was at his parents' house, a cozy two-story in Kennesaw, sitting across from Emma, a family friend and sharp attorney. Emma's no-nonsense demeanor put him at ease as she jotted notes. "Lauren's banking on you reacting emotionally," she said, tapping her pen. "But we'll beat her with facts. First, we need proof of her threats." Jake remembered the security camera in their living room, installed after a neighborhood break-in. It recorded audio, and Lauren's words from last night, her threat to lie to the police, might be on it. Emma nodded, impressed. "That's a start. If she follows through, we'll have her for filing a false report." The next day, Jake's fears came true. He was at home, reviewing the camera footage on his laptop, when two police officers knocked. One was Sarah, a former high school classmate, now a sergeant with a calm, professional air. "We got to call Jake," she said, her tone apologetic. "Lauren says you threatened her when she asked for a divorce. We need to talk." Jake's pulse quickened, but he kept his cool, inviting them in. "Take a seat," he said, gesturing to the couch. "I've got something you should see." He played the footage, Lauren's cold declaration of her plans, her threat to frame him, his own measured responses. Sarah's jaw tightened as she watched, her partner scribbling notes. "This changes things," Sarah said, handing Jake a card. "Filing a false report is serious. We'll handle it, but you should get a restraining order. And Jake, stay smart. Don't give her ammunition." As they left, Jake felt a flicker of relief, but the weight of Lauren's escalation pressed harder. She wasn't just after the house or money. She was trying to ruin him, to paint him as the villain. Checking his email, he found a message from Lauren's lawyer demanding the house, all their furniture, and even the old silverware set from his grandmother. The audacity floored him, but Emma's words echoed, facts over feelings. That night, Jake sat in his grandfather's leather chair, the journal open in his lap. A passage stood out. "When the world turns against you, don't lash out. Outthink it." He thought of Lauren's lawyer, her drained account, her lies to the police. She was cunning, but she'd underestimated him. Emma had already confirmed the house was untouchable, and the furniture? Every major purchase was paid with checks from his dad's account, a habit Jake picked up to avoid debt. Lauren's demands were built on sand, and Jake was ready to expose it. But the betrayal cut deep, and as he stared at the empty wine glass still on the counter, he felt the ache of a life unraveling. This wasn't just a fight for assets. It was for his dignity, his future. He'd play her game, but he'd play it smarter. Jake Thompson's world was unraveling, but he refused to let Lauren's betrayal break him. The police visit had been a wake-up call, her false accusations a desperate move to paint him as the villain. With the security footage in hand, Jake had dodged her first blow, but the fight was far from over. Lauren's lawyer kept pushing, sending emails that demanded not just the house, but every piece of furniture, down to the silverware Jake's grandmother had left behind. The greed behind her actions stung, but it also sharpened his focus. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about power, and Jake was done playing the fool. He met with Emma, his attorney, at her office in downtown Atlanta, a small space cluttered with legal books and coffee mugs. Emma scrolled through Lauren's demands on her tablet, her expression a mix of amusement and disdain. "She's reaching," Emma said, leaning back at her chair. "The house is in your parents' name, and I've got receipts showing your dad paid for every major purchase. She's got no claim. But here's the kicker. I dug into her lawyer's connections. He's tied to a shady real estate agent, someone known for flipping properties fast. I think Lauren's planning to force a sale of the house, then have her agent buy it cheap and sell it back to her." Jake's jaw clenched, the pieces clicking into place. Lauren wasn't just after a payout. She was orchestrating a scheme to steal his grandfather's legacy. "Can we stop her?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Emma nodded, her eyes sharp. "We can. The footage of her threats is enough for a restraining order, and I'll file a motion to dismiss her claims. But we need to move fast. She's banking on you crumbling, Jake. Don't give her that." Her words lit a fire in him, a reminder of his grandfather's journal. Outthink, don't outfight. Back home, Jake pored over the journal, its pages a lifeline in the chaos. One entry stood out, written after his grandfather lost a business deal to a crooked partner. "They'll try to bury you with lies, but truth is your shovel. Dig." Jake closed the book, his mind racing. He started gathering evidence, pulling bank statements that showed his dad's payments for the furniture, the appliances, even the dining table Lauren loved to brag about. Every receipt was a brick in the wall he was building, a defense against her greed. He also checked the security system, ensuring every angle of the house was covered in case she tried something new. The emotional toll was heavier than he'd expected. Late at night, alone in the quiet house, Jake found himself staring at old photos on the mantel. A trip to Savannah, their wedding day, Lauren's smile bright and unguarded. The memories clawed at him, stirring doubt. Had he missed something, push her away somehow? He thought of calling Mike, his fire captain friend, but stopped himself. This was his fight, and he needed to face it head-on. Instead, he wrote a letter to himself, something his grandfather once suggested during tough times. "You're not the problem," he scribbled. "She chose this. You choose to stand." The next morning, Jake got a call from Mike, who'd heard whispers about Lauren through mutual friends. "She's telling people you're unstable, man," Mike said, his voice low. "Says you're refusing to let her go. I know it's bull, but she's spinning a story." Jake thanked him, the news fueling his resolve. Lauren was building a narrative, trying to turn their community against him. But Marietta was his home, where neighbors knew his family, where his grandfather's name still carried weight. She'd underestimated the roots he'd grown here. By week's end, Emma had filed a restraining order, citing Lauren's recorded threats and false police report. Jake felt a flicker of hope, but the battle was escalating. Lauren's lawyer responded with a new demand, half the value of the house, claiming she'd contributed to its upkeep. It was a lie, but a clever one, designed to drag things out. As Jake sat in his grandfather's chair, the journal opened to a new page. He knew the hardest part was coming. Lauren was digging in, but so was he. This wasn't just about saving his home. It was about reclaiming his life, proving that truth could outlast lies. Jake Thompson's fight for justice was reaching its boiling point, but he was determined to stay one step ahead of Lauren's schemes. The restraining order was in place, her false police report exposed, and Emma, his attorney, was dismantling her baseless demands with surgical precision. Yet Lauren wasn't backing down. Her lawyer's latest move, claiming she deserved half the house's value for upkeep, was a desperate ploy to prolong the battle, draining Jake's time and energy. Each new email from her legal team felt like a jab, testing his resolve, but Jake leaned into his grandfather's wisdom. Truth was his weapon, and he'd wield it carefully. Emma called Jake to her office, her voice crackling with urgency over the phone. When he arrived, she was pacing, a stack of documents spread across her desk. "Lauren's playing a long game," she said, sliding a file toward him. "Her agent friend? I got a tip he's already lined up a buyer for the house, assuming they can force a sale. They're counting on you settling to avoid a drawn-out fight." Jake's stomach churned, but his mind sharpened. "What's our move?" he asked. Emma grinned, a rare spark in her eyes. "We hit back with everything. I'm filing a countersuit for the $25,000 she took from your joint account. Plus, we'll expose her real estate scheme in court. She's not as clever as she thinks." Back in Marietta, Jake doubled down on preparation. He spent evenings sorting through financial records, every receipt and bank statement a shield against Lauren's lies. His parents helped, their support unwavering. His mom, Ellen, dug up old emails where Lauren had dismissed the house as shabby, contradicting her claim of contributing to its upkeep. His dad, Tom, a retired accountant, cross-checked every transaction, ensuring no detail was overlooked. "She's got nothing on you, son," Tom said, clapping Jake's shoulder. "Keep your head up." Their faith steadied him, a reminder of the family he was fighting for. The emotional strain was relentless, though. Late at night, Jake wrestled with doubt, the quiet house amplifying his thoughts. He'd built a life with Lauren, shared dreams, laughed through tough times. How had it come to this? One evening, he found an old mixtape they'd made in college, a relic of road trips and simpler days. Playing It Was a Mistake, her favorite song hit like a knife, stirring memories he wasn't ready to face. He shut it off, grabbing his grandfather's journal instead. A new entry caught his eye. When you're lost, find your why. It'll light the way. Jake's why was clear, not just saving the house, but proving he could rise above betrayal without losing himself. A surprise came midweek when Mike, his fire captain friend, dropped by with news. Heard something at the station, Mike said, leaning against Jake's porch railing. Lauren's been cozying up to that real estate guy. They were seen at a coffee shop, talking numbers. Sounds like she's banking on a big payout. Jake nodded, grateful but unsurprised. Thanks, man. She's digging her own grave. Mike hesitated, then added, folks around here know you, Jake. She's not winning any friends with this. The community's quiet support, neighbors who'd known his grandfather, friends who'd seen Jake's character, bolstered his resolve. Emma's countersuit was filed by Friday, accusing Lauren of theft and fraud for draining the account and colluding with her agent. Jake felt the tide turning, but doubt lingered. What if Lauren had another trick? That night, he sat in his grandfather's chair, the journal open, and wrote his own entry. She wants me to break, but I won't. This is for me, for Grandpa, for what's right. The act grounded him, a promise to himself. The court date was looming, and Jake knew it would be the ultimate test. Lauren thought she could outmaneuver him, but he was ready to show her the truth was stronger than her lies. He wasn't fighting for revenge. He was fighting for his future, for the man he'd promised his grandfather he'd become.